Yes, hello, good morning everyone. Am I audible? Yes, good morning everyone. Yes, Ashwini is there. Hello. Voice is clear, loud. Yes, good morning, Drishti. Yes, good morning, Mallory. Voice is audible to all of you, or still there is need to improvement. Yes, good morning, Vijay. Good. Okay, shall we wait for some time or shall we start? Okay, I don't want to give my introduction once again. It is written, and yesterday only I said that I'm in this field for 8 years. My name is Harshvardhan Singh, those who are joining me today, and we are going to learn, we, you and me, we are going to learn the world history. You will definitely love this journey. Yes, and those who haven't subscribed to Unacademy, you can take the subscription of Unacademy. There are various options available for it. Yes, and whenever you want to take subscription, then you can use my code. It will give you 10% discount. My code is HarshV10. Okay. Yes. So how many people are there? Okay. Yes. So a quick recap of last lecture. Yesterday we discussed about background of French Revolution, how French Revolution started. We mentioned that it was not a one day event, means it was not an event, it was a process. It doesn't mean that one fine morning Frenchmen wake up and they say that okay, revolution. It's not at all the case. So we mentioned about the social background, means the society. As yesterday, we are going to give the quick recap of last lecture. Yesterday we mentioned about the society was divided into first estate, second estate, and third estate. Yes. Just a minute. Yes, sorry. So yesterday we mentioned about the France is divided into three estates: first, second, third. The first estate belongs to clergy, second estate belongs to nobility, and third estate belongs to rest of the population. And in this list we mention that around 90% belongs to peasantry. Yes, around 90% belongs to peasantry. and rest 10% belongs to bourgeois class. Clear? So this division was basically, this societal division was based on birth, so you cannot change it. Clear? As it is based on birth, you cannot change it. That creates a huge problem in the society. And also we mentioned in this three state, first, second and third, we mentioned that third state were paying taxes to, third state were paying taxes to king, third estate were paying taxes to church in the form of tithe, third estate were paying taxes to second estate in the form of cess. Clear? So third estate was the sole taxpayer of the society. So we mentioned that it is a form of it is not, it is a form of exploitation, it is an exploitation. Yes, there was a discontent. Yesterday you mentioned the basic factors responsible for revolution. So in that you mentioned exploitation should be there, discrimination should be there. Yes, so here are the references. Economic exploitation of French society. Discrimination. Yes, discrimination. How it is discrimination? Third estate discriminated from rest of the two. Clear? Then you mention about poverty. Don't you think so? If third estate, that is third estate, peasantry, peasants are poor, and the poor people are exploited, don't you think they are becoming more poor? So poverty, you mentioned the poverty is this. Yes, poverty. Clear? So we mentioned yesterday that societal problem, inherent societal problem there for centuries. ये problem कोई एक दिन के थोड़ी है. These problems are for centuries, and French society was suffering from it. Clear? So we mentioned the social problem, okay, in last lecture. Next, we mentioned about the problems in French monarchy. In that we mentioned they follow medieval ideals and practices. Then we mentioned about no change approach, that is no progressive approach they adopted. Then we mentioned about divine origin of kingship, autocratic government. Yes, we mentioned about that, autocratic government. Clear? Then we mentioned about rule of 14, 15 and 16. Who is this 14, 15, 16? Of course, French monarch Louis 14, 15, 16. And another important factor we mentioned, that because of the imperialistic approach, weak economic and financial policies. Yes, so we mentioned that these are the problems. And why? Because every time, as some of you quite aware of, that France and Britain were fighting for their France versus Britain. They were fighting for colonies all over the world, and most of the time Britain defeated France, and because of that France has to pay war reparation to Britain. That's one more loss is there. So it is just because of the monarchical approach. Okay? Now we are going to discuss in the today's lecture, we are going to discuss the third aspect, and that is the most important aspect, and it is also known as immediate factor for any revolution. If you consider French Revolution, financial crisis is always important factor, means immediate and important factor. The same way, if you consider Russian Revolution, the same. If you consider Chinese Revolution, it is the same. So most of the time, economic, financial crisis is always an important factor, or we can say the immediate factor for the revolution. Clear? So what was the case? Why the finance? Yes. So why the case, or we can say The third factor, that is economic factor, financial system, problems in financial system, and that leads to financial crisis. How? First, war. As we already mentioned, France was engaged with Britain all over the world for colonization, for imperialism. That is the one thing. So because of this, financial problem was severe. But at the same time, when financial condition was worst, at that time, France supported America. Yes, yes, the America, same America. Right now, election is going on. Same country, America. As this is very popularly known as American War of Independence. Okay, tell me one thing. The problem is with whom? Whether France is having any vested interest in America, whether America was a colony of France, whether whether France and Britain were friends. No, nothing. France has nothing to do with that. The American War of Independence, is basically issue between two. One is Britain, other is 13 British colonies. Whose colony? British. Hence, basically, it is a conflict of interest between colonial powers and colonies. Then why France is so much interested? Why France is so much interested? Do you have any reference that after American War of Independence, America became a nation state? After that, they paid huge amount of money to France? No, not at all. Then why they are so much interested? Why they are so much interested? Yes, exactly. Just use common sense. Britain versus France. Arch rival for centuries. Arch rival for centuries. Every time Britain defeated France. This is the opportunity for France to take revenge. In Hindi, it is very popular phrase, "Dushman ka dushman dost hota hai." It's very simple. It is the same thing. America and Britain, right now enemy. France and Britain also enemy. So these two opponents of of Britain join hands with each other. Okay. And one more thing. Without French and Spanish help, it was not possible for America to defeat Britain because British position at that time was so strong and her navy is considered as undefeated navy of that time. Realize? Undefeated navy of that time. So do you imagine that you are going to defeat your colonial master with help of scanty resources? So it was a distant dream, but they achieved with help of France and Spain. So the result is very clear of American War of Independence, that America emerged as a nation state. And what about France? France helped America just to take revenge from Britain. But after that, what after that? Whether they get anything? No, there is no return. What they lost, revenue, because war is a pricey thing. You have to invest huge amount of resources. Resources, it doesn't mean just a financial resources. You have to reuse all the types of resources. Human resource is the most important thing. Clear? You're getting my point? Yes. So already France was in financial crisis because of continuous war with the Britain over imperialism, over colonialism. And now they help America in the time of their own financial crisis. So American War of Independence added more burden over finances. Clear? Yes. You you can imagine the situation of France with the situation of our country right now. We are already suffering from economic crisis, and COVID is a gift for us. So because of that COVID, whatever the financial condition was there, it was bad. Now it is the worst. Clear? Now you get it. Means how that American War of Independence added more burden over France. Next important thing, famines. Famines. It's not a new phenomenon at that time. Famines are consecutive, means we can say a repetitive nature of that time because everything is dependent on nature as famines was there. French economy. French economy was totally dependent on tax paid by third estate. Yes. And who were the member of third estate? Peasants. Yes. Who were the member of it? Peasants. Suppose if famines are there, do you really think so that peasants are going to pay taxes? They have to. They have to because there is no democracy. Yes, everyone. You're in democratic country, so you can consider no, they don't have to pay tax. Government can waive them. That time, their whole economy is dependent on the tax paid by the peasant. So peasant at all costs they have to pay either from their reserve or from anything else. So for a year we can consider peasant can manage them. For 1 year they can manage them. But if it's a consecutive famines are there, do you really think so that peasants are in position to pay taxes? No. Peasants are not in a position to pay that much taxes. And one more thing, agriculture is a important source of raw material for industries, for crafts. Yes. So if agriculture production suffered, don't you think so that other section of the society, bourgeois, are going to suffer? Yes. Bourgeois also going to suffer because less supply of raw material, things goes costly. And what about the people? Are they in a position to buy luxury goods in the time of financial crisis? No. So these people, peasants, are not in a position to pay taxes. The same way they are not at all in a position to pay taxes. It's very common phenomenon because they don't have money. If you have money, you can pay the taxes. If you don't have money, are you in a position? Not at all. But the demand from monarchy, the demand from monarchy was continuous. They said that you have to pay taxes. So there was a huge dissatisfaction. There was a huge dissatisfaction, discontent among the masses. Very simple. If you don't have money, how can you pay the taxes? And their condition was condition of helpless people. Clear? So first point, that is war added more burden over finances. Second thing, famines destroyed the financial system. Consecutive famines destroyed. So as war disturbed the things, famines completely destroy that. What's the solution? What's the solution? Don't you think so? To run the country, you required money. And if you don't think so, that country required money, then think about you. You are the part of the country. Desh, Mulk, Rashtra, nation. It is made up of you only. You, me, all. So if this is a country and you are here, you are the part of the country. Clear? So don't you think so? You required money. You required money. From where you're getting it? Yes. Agriculture was your sole, agriculture sector was your sole taxpayer sector. And because of famine, this structure is collapsed. Then don't you think so? There is a need to generate more revenue from other sources. Yes, don't you think so? There is a need as the sole taxpayer sector is suffered. Now they are not in a position to pay taxes, and country without taxes, nobody can run the country without money. What to do? So the answer is that there is a need of structural changes. There is a need of structural changes. So first of all, I just want to explain what is structural changes. I just want to tell you what is structural changes because this is very common word in terms of economy. But most of you are having misconception over the structural changes. Basically, suppose yes, this is a very famous drawing you all drew in your school days. Yes, those who cannot guess, I can mention it. Home, घर पे, home. Clear? So if I purchase this home, and if I'm a superstitious person, I'm a superstitious person. If I purchase this home, superstitious person, I am a strong believer of Vastu Shastra. Superstitious as well as believer of Vastu Shastra. And one person, so-called any influential person in the society, entered in my house, and that person is going to tell me that no, this window should not be here. This exhaust should not be here. This door should not be here. Yes, he said that door should be on this side, exhaust should be on this side, window should be here. And finally, he is going to tell me that this is not. Finally, he is going to tell me that the main problem is with your home is you have to change the direction of your home. Suppose this is the west facing, they said that you have to make east facing. So what's the solution for me? Do you really think so? I'm going to change with all. The facing is of west. If I have to make that facing to east, then what I have to do? I have to do like this. Yes, now my home is east facing. Clear? What I did here, I completely changed the structure. This was the earlier structure, earlier, west facing. I completely changed, means basically I demolished the old and created a new structure. And this is known as structural change. This is in terms of civil. This is, we can explain in terms of economy as well. Okay. So, do you get it? Yes. Anybody is having any problem? Because this concept is important for you in economics as well as in history point of view as well. Any question, any query? If it is there, just text me so that I can explain this thing with the another example. If it is not, then okay. And yes, very good morning to all of you, those who joined me late. And one more thing, those who are new here and those who are new here, I just want to tell you one thing. If you are having any queries, question, please ask. Do not feel any hesitation while asking the question. And remember one thing, that you are not expert. You are a learner. So you have all the scope to do mistake. Okay? Whatever the mistake you are going to do here or while preparing while your preparation, that's fine, but do not repeat those mistakes while writing mains or prelims or giving interview. Clear? So whatever mistake you are going to do, you can reduce that. And everybody always remember one more thing, that is whether you are going to appear for prelims, mains or interview. Everybody does the mistakes. Just one difference between a person who selected and non-selected candidate, that a person who selected did very less mistakes. Means for example, in prelims, if you are not selected, then maybe you did 10 mistakes and the selected candidate made. So mistakes are always there. Everybody does it. So you are not exceptional. But please do not take any tension of it. Most of the candidates are having fear. What people are going to say. People are going to say the same thing. You are useless. And the same people are going to say one more thing to you. That this girl or boy was very studious, very hardworking in nature, when you are having this AIR 1, 2 something, or it is written in your profile IAS, IPS, then people are going to praise you. Right now, nobody is going to praise you. Yes, so please feel free. Okay, so as I mentioned, structural change means what exactly? Basically, the word structural change means completely change in structure. I gave you example that this house and how it changes and all. The another example I just want to give here with help of French economy. With help of French economy. First estate, second estate, and third estate. The old structure of French society was that third estate were paying taxes to king as a form of land revenue. Third estate were paying taxes to first estate in the form of tithe, and third estate were paying taxes to second estate in the form of sales. So this is the old structure. And what we have mentioned, that because of this continuous famine, third estate were not in a position to pay taxes. So don't you think there is a need to change the structure? Yes, don't you think there is a need to change the structure? This structure, this one, whatever we have, this is a example of exploitation. Yes, this is the exploitative, oppressive structure. So there is a need. Society will remain the same. Yes, society will remain the same. That is first, second, and third. Here is king. King means basically we are talking about state. Absolute monarchy was there. Unquestionable authority was there. So third estate has to pay tax to king in the form of land revenue. But as we mentioned, they are not in a position. But don't you think so that first estate is in position, second estate is in position to pay taxes? Yes. Don't you think so? They are having huge money because they are collecting tithe. Yes. Nobility is enjoying taxes without duties. They are rich enough. They are rich enough to pay taxes. Suppose if you cannot imagine that, let's take example of India right now. As we know, India is suffering from financial mismanagement or something like that. Hence, our economy is not that much sound. Clear? So maybe due to this pandemic, the situation will get more worse. Maybe in future, we don't know. And we are asking poor to pay taxes. Do you really think so? They are in a position to pay? Not at all, because they don't have job. Even the problem is with them that they are struggling to fulfill their basic rights. That is food, water, shelter. You can add internet as well right now. So, so if they are not in a position to fulfill their basic necessity, do you really think so they are going to pay taxes? No. Middle class, they can pay to some extent. But don't you think so? They are rich people like uh, our capitalist, industrialist. You can take any name, Tata, Birla, then Ambani, Adani, and all. They are having huge money. In the sake of country, don't you think so? They have to pay more money. Yes, they have to pay because to run the state, state required revenue. They are having huge money. It is the same thing with the France that first estate and second estate were having huge amount of money. First estate and second estate were having huge amount of money, but because of the privilege. Yes, everyone. Yes, everyone. Sorry for inconvenience. Yes, again, this thing is restored, and extremely sorry for inconvenience. It is just because of network issue. So we were talking about that for the structural changes, there was a huge opposition from privileged group. Yes, why there was so much opposition from this privileged group? Yes, this question to you. Why there was so much opposition from the privileged group for the structural changes? Don't you think so? They are means they were having money. They can pay anytime, and their country required in time of crisis. Still, they were opposing. Why it is so? Yes, everyone. Any response from your side? As you are a responsible citizen of our country, if our country required money in terms of crisis, don't you think so you're going to pay that when you are having money? When you are having money, definitely you're going to pay. Then why these people oppose a lot? Yes, you can send your answer so that I will get to know, okay, whether you're there or not. Yes, you're going to pay. But why these people opposed? Okay, Ashwini said she will pay. Mrinal said no one will wish to use their money to cause they are getting it without duties. They can pay. Pranavi said just don't want to use. Yes, of course. What you have said, they were in a position to pay. If you are in a position, definitely you are going to pay. What's the problem with these people? They enjoying these privileges for centuries and still they were not in a position. They refused to pay. They opposed. Why it is so? Because it is not just question of money. What I mentioned, it was not just a question of money. It was question of continuation of privileges. Yes, Pranvi, exactly. They do not want to lose their privileges because their privileges is based on birth. Right now, if they if the condition is this and if this first and second state is going to pay taxes, then definitely king is going to think about it. King is going to say, okay, next time please pay, next time please pay, next time please pay. That means every time and finally they are going to lose their privileges. And nobody wants to lose their privileges because we all are human beings. We loved our privileges. We do not want to lose it. Nobody wants to lose their privileges. Clear? So it was not at all the question of money. It was a question of privileges. They do not want to lose it. That's why they opposed very much. Huge opposition from their side. Clear? One more thing. Okay. As we mentioned, privileged group. As we mentioned here, privileged group opposed. Okay. Tell me one thing, and you know that king is considered as a god on earth at that time because of divine origin of kingship. They followed the principle of divine origin of kingship. If God asks you, if you are a theist, I'm not, I'm a theist. If you are a theist, and if God asks you, pay the price, balidan. So what you are going to do? Refuse? No way. You cannot refuse. Yes. If king asks you, you cannot refuse. But at the same time, you do not want to lose your privileges. God asks you to pay. At the same time, you do not want to pay. What to do? It is a situation of dilemma, because if king is saying, that means God is saying. You cannot refuse God, and if you refused it, then punishment is death. Simple. It's not democracy that first you are going to trial in local court, high court, supreme court. At that time it was not there. Clear. In one go, king is going to say, okay, hang this person, end of that life. So this is a dilemma. Paying taxes is going to lose the privileges. Non-paying taxes, you're going to lose your life. That is a dilemma. And how this dilemma is sorted out, we are going to discuss. Okay. Now, we're going to discuss in after 2-3 slides, don't worry. Now, if we sum up whatever we discussed till now, if we sum up the thing, the third point. First, we discussed social structure, means problem in the social structure. Then we discussed the problem in monarchical structure. Then we mentioned financial crisis. So whatever the point you mentioned, first you mentioned discontent, then you mentioned dissatisfaction, then you mentioned poverty. Clear? Then you mentioned exploitation. Clear? Then you mentioned financial crisis. You already mentioned before we are starting French Revolution. So whatever we discussed at that time, don't you think so? These are the universal reason for revolution. If that revolution was, is, or will be at any place, don't you think so? These are the universal factors, reason for revolution. Yes. So always remember, in history, name and places changes. Events remains the same. So we mentioned that. So now, again, we are coming back to our point. So yesterday we mentioned about this social structure, problems in social structure, then problems in monarchy and financial crisis. That is immediate factor. That is immediate cause. Okay. Along with role of ideas and role of philosopher led to French Revolution of 1789. Okay. So tell me one thing. Whether the role of philosopher or role of ideas was most important for revolution? Yes, I'm asking you. What do you think? What do you think? Yes. How many of you replied? Reply. Just reply. If someone asks you the questions, please reply. Maybe right or wrong. It's okay. Just reply. Vasudha said yes, ideas important. Mridal said economic crisis are yes, of course we already mentioned that economic crisis are important. My question is that role of whether role of philosopher was as important as of these three. Hmm. What do you think? Yes, Ashwini said it's important. Yes, it is. Vasudha said important. Yes. What about others? What do you think? Their role was important. Yes, Drishti said yes. Mold's idea for masses. Lakshmi said yes, it was important. So my question was basically whether role of ideas and role of philosopher is as important as of one, two, three. So you said yes. If it was so important, then why we didn't mention here as a fourth point? Why not? Why we mentioned here over the arrow? Hmm. Don't you think so that when these people were exploited, yes, was under poverty, don't you think so they know this thing कि वो उनका शोषण हो रहा है गरीब है people knew that they are poor, they are exploited, they are cheated. Yes, discrimination on the basis of discrimination on the basis of birth. They knew that. Don't you think so? People are quite aware of this idea of freedom. क्या पहली बार फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन के बाद ही लोगों को पता चला? Means what do you think? Just after French Revolution, people realize, oh, liberty, new concept. Not at all. These are universal idea and it was present earlier as well. Means, as I want to say the same thing, that is, people are exploited for centuries. People are exploited for centuries. Ideas were present for centuries. Philosophers were there much before revolution. Okay? So, if we consider the role of ideas and role of philosopher as equal with all these factors, then it's not completely true. not completely true. Why it is so? Please allow me to explain. What's the role of idea was important. These two are acted as a catalyst. स्पेलिंग गलत हो सकता है, ठीक कर लेना. Catalyst. In your school and college days, you learn about the catalyst. Chemistry, one subject was there. Some of you quite aware of chemistry. Catalyst. What is the role of catalyst? Simple. To fasten the process. What they did? They just fasten the reaction. Are they main ingredient? In very common sense, is I just want to let you know that if you order any food, and most of the food items, Indian food items, are having coriander poured over it. So can you consider that coriander is the most important aspect of it? No, it increases the taste. Yes, but we cannot consider it as an important factor. Many ingredients are different. Maybe wheat, barley, rice, or anything with other things. Clear? So, role of ideas and role of philosopher is just like catalyst. They fasten the revolution. For example, as we mentioned, there was discrimination, discontent, dissatisfaction, yes, exploitation and all. These were there for centuries. What they did, they just convince the masses when they were suffering. Ideas and philosopher convince the masses, as some of you know that. You know, boys and girls are equal in India like this. This is a boy, this is a girl, this is the equality in India. Yes, for constitution provided that this equality, but society is still on the different zone. Clear? So according to our constitution, it's same. But in practical sense, you all realize the equality between both genders. Okay. So women are exploited in our society. Along with that, women are what we can say, they are not considered at par with the men and all. So such kind of discrimination at workplace, discrimination at while having fair competition. So this is always there. But as both boy and girl is busy in work, if they are busy in work, they don't pay that much attention to it. This poor and rich, they are not equal in India. They are not unequal. Yes, constitution provided the equality, but they are like this. Here is poor, here is rich. There is huge difference between their rights and all, though constitution provides the same. Clear? But this person, the poor person, cannot pay too much attention to the problem of poverty, discrimination, and all. Why? Because he is having work. Because he is working. If the person is working, has less time to think over issues like discrimination, exploitation, and all. They know that. They know that. But when, when this person lost the job and remained idle, that is, without work, that is, without work, don't you think so? This person is going to think about it. Am I right or wrong? If you're working, then you're too much busy in your life. But, but if you're idle, you have enough time. You have enough time to think. And as a human being, we always love to work. But now you don't have work. You want to work, but there is no scope for work. Then you are going to think about discrimination, discontent, dissatisfaction, exploitation, poverty, and all. And then you're going to find out why you are in this condition. And then you realize it is just because somebody exploited somebody exploited. Clear? So these ideas played important role when these conditions are fulfilled. Clear? And financial crisis is always an immediate factor. Clear? So a role of idea is just like role of catalyst. They fasten the reaction. Okay? Some of you get confused. Maybe. That's okay. Let me tell you another example in very simple word. If I say, if I said, if Gandhiji was not there, then freedom was impossible task. In other words, if there were no Gandhi, if there were no Gandhi, India never gets freedom. गांधी ना होते तो भारत कभी आजाद ही ना होता. Yes, what do you think? What do you think? If Gandhi was not there were no freedom. Yes. What do you think? Mrinal said, I think way to get freedom will be different. Yes. But my question is very basic. If Gandhi was not there, there were no freedom. Sameer said, no sir, I don't think so. It would be late, but inevitable. Now you got the point. Now you got the point. Gandhi, we are not considering Gandhi as a person. We are considering Gandhi as an idea because he was the philosopher of Indian freedom struggle. Sorry. Am I right or wrong? We cannot consider Gandhi as a one person like this. No. Gandhi was the idea of Indian national movement. Clear? Means without Gandhi also you get the freedom. There are many countries who don't have Gandhi. For example, Vietnam, they fought for their right, they got the freedom. South Africa, they got it without Gandhi. As a person, I'm saying, as a person. Clear? But, 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 as the Mrinal said, Sameer said, it is also true. The ways may be the different. As some of you quite aware that why Gandhi is important. Why important? Because Indian national movement, Indian national movement was bloodless revolution. If you see the worldwide, you will get to know that almost all the revolution world are blooded revolution. Clear? So it is not the case that if Gandhi was there, so we achieved freedom. It was not there. But without Gandhi, the freedom was quite different. And maybe it not a bloodless revolution. Gandhi was a basic idea. So always remember. So the role of ideas here is the same. Role of ideas and role of philosopher. They gave direction to the movement. They convince the masses that you are exploited. Clear? So these all 3 points, if we sum up whatever we discussed since yesterday, if we sum up this thing, then you will get to know the problems in society, problems in monarchy and financial crisis. So in general, we can say socio, politico, economic factor. And this economic factor was an immediate factor or immediate cause. Okay? Socio-political economic factors along with the role of ideas and role of philosophers led to French Revolution of 1789. Got it? Okay. Next. French Revolution and role of philosopher. This is another aspect of it. After that, we are going to discuss the revolution and its phases. But first, we are going to mention role of philosopher. So, there were three French philosophers which played most important role in the revolution to enlighten the masses. A very famous trio: Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire. Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire. These were the French philosophers which enlightened the masses, or we can say the influence of French philosopher over the revolution. It's visible during, means their influence, the influence of philosopher visible during revolution, and its role is also visible while drafting constitution. Visible during the revolution as well as visible during drafting of constitution. Clear? So these three, as we mentioned, Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire, played an important role in French Revolution. But there were other philosophers which also played an important role, not as an individual, but their ideas played an important role. One very famous British philosopher was that John Locke. John Locke, principle of natural justice. Yes, the same person. British philosopher John Locke influenced the American Revolution as well as it influenced the French Revolution. American philosopher Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, as some of you quite aware of this person, he also influenced the French Revolution through writings. That's why there are many people, and especially dictators, doesn't like writing. Clear? Because philosophers are intelligentsia. Philosophers are intelligentsia. Okay. So, if in general sense, if we want to consider it, then French philosopher, British philosopher, and American philosopher and their philosophy influenced the French Revolution. Okay. Now we are going to discuss one by one Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire. Rousseau, he presented the concept of popular sovereignty. What exactly it is means, in short, it is said that there is a contract between king and people. There is a contract between king and people, and if king is not going to work for the people, if king is not going to work for the people, then people have a right to overthrow the king. Here, in this philosophy, what he mentioned, that people are most important and source of power. Clear? So Rousseau presented this idea that people are sovereign. People are having right to overthrow king if king is not going to work for welfare of the citizens. Clear? Next, Montesquieu. Montesquieu presented the theory of separation of power and safeguard individual freedom. Montesquieu presented the idea of separation of power. सुना है कभी ये नाम separation of power? Have you ever heard about separation of power? Have you ever? Yes, everyone. Have you ever heard about separation of power? Whether in India we have a separation of power? Hmm. Yes, Minna, Samir, you said yes. This is just a part of answer. The other part of question is remain unanswerable. What I'm asked, if separation of power is there in India, then please let me know. When we say the separation of power is there, yes, but please let me know. I am a common person of this country. I don't know what is separation of power. Please explain. Yes, you're going to be a bureaucrat and you have to deal with the person like me as a common man. I don't know anything. I'm asking the question. What Pranay said, powers between union and state, separation of power. Manal said yes, legislative, judiciary, and executive. When we really separation of power is basically in general we consider it in terms of this legislative, executive, and parliament. कभी ये सुना होगा आपने थ्री पिलर्स ऑफ ओ सॉरी वन एक थोड़ी सी गलती हुई यहाँ पर जुडिशरी एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड instead of yes judiciary executive and parliament yes exactly and what Ranvi you mentioned earlier it was federation or federal state yes federation or federal state where the power is divided between two entities one is central other is state. What Samir said, judiciary, executive and legislative, yes, not to concentrate the power to maintain check and balance. Yes, exactly. Why it is there? To maintain checks and balance. Wow, you are really studying polity very well. Good. So right now I can consider you as a master of polity. I'm happy that really you are studying. Good. So this person, Montesquieu, presented this idea of separation of state pre 1789. So just imagine how this person was a visionary. Now in India we used it. In India we used it from 1947, or we can consider it more precisely after Constitution, means after enactment of Constitution. More precisely, we are saying 1950s onward. And this person presented the idea much before it. Clear? So why, in general sense, apart from this, in general sense, why the philosopher ideas are most important for society? Because these people, philosopher, intelligentsia, presented an idea much before it comes into existence. Much before its existence. Clear? Means when they presented the idea of equality, at that time there was no equality. When they presented the idea of freedom, there was no such concept of freedom. But yes, that idea played an important role to inspire the masses, and finally we achieved to some extent. We achieved this thing to some extent. Clear? So just imagine how this person was. Montesquieu was a visionary person, and he talked about separation of power. At the same time, he talked about safeguard of individual freedom. When pre 1789, at that time, your life was totally dependent on the will of king. At that time, what he said, safeguard of individual freedom, means basically he was talking about the citizen, not a countryman. Clear? So he presented that idea, separation of power. Why? Because as some of you said, the cons, and some of you quite aware of this, king was absolute monarch, absolute, unquestionable. And if you are unquestionable, don't you think so you are going to be autocratic? Yes. If you are unquestionable, definitely you are going to be autocratic, because no principle of check and balance is there. So this person presented that idea, and this idea of separation of power, individual and safeguard of individual freedom, expose expose this structure. Okay. Okay. Next, Voltaire. Voltaire was very angry over the church. He said that church as a privileged nuisance. Church as a privileged nuisance means they are doing nothing. They are doing nothing, just enjoying privileges. They are enjoying lavish lifestyle. And who is going to pay for their lavish lifestyle? Common people. To maintain this lavish lifestyle, who were paying? Common people. So that's why he was angry. He said that if you really want society to be free, then you have to end the authority of church over administration. over society, because the influence of church was present everywhere. Each and every aspect of your life was determined by church. And it was not just a case in France, in India also, in other countries. At that time it was there that religion dominate your life in each and every aspect of your life. That time. Just consider the present time, you will get to know the same thing. I'm not joking. I'm telling you the reality. If you want to check it, just tell anybody. Means if you're a girl, just tell anybody that you are suffered because of mm, Mars, Mangalaya. See, the madness ruined the life of person. Okay, so it was a kind of influence that time. That time, just imagine, it is a beyond imagination influence. So what he said, they want to end it. Okay, so here once again, three important French philosophers: Rousseau, Montesquieu, Voltaire. One more philosopher, that is John Locke, presented idea of principle of natural justice. John Locke, natural justice, principle of natural justice. Man is he mentioned man is born free. Okay, so such kind of thing. American philosopher, that is Benjamin Franklin, through the writings influenced the French Revolution. Rousseau presented popular sovereignty, that is will of people. Montesquieu, separation of power and safeguard of individual freedom. And Voltaire, church, criticizes church as a privileged nuisance and want to end the influence of churches. Clear? Now, this is an important and interesting topic in French Revolution. Role of French philosopher. Very interesting. Why it is so? Because there are divergent views. There are divergent views related to role of French philosopher. One point of view suggests that role of French philosopher was important. Role of French philosopher was important. Other point of view suggested that their role was limited. Clear? One point of view suggested their role was important. Other point of view said that their role was limited. Just read the expression through which it is expressed. One of the expression. This can be asked as a comment type of question, or this can be asked as a short notes. Will be पूछा जा सकता है इसमें. So the statement. This is basically statement. One statement. French drank the poison of philosophy. This is the statement which mentioned French drank the poison of philosophy. Poison of philosophy. French drank the poison of philosophy. Means basically They consume philosophy and they get vibrated or vibrant, violent, and they come out and started revolution. It's just like you. It's your situation. You can read one book and you can read one book, and after reading that book your situation is like, I know everything. Like when you read polity book, you started talking about liberty, equality, fraternity, and all, and you want, sorry, and you want immediate change. But this can be a situation. This can be a situation of one person, and revolution is not going to start with help of one person. Clear? So whatever an individual aspect of yours is not applicable over society. Individual aspect of person is not applicable over society. So your condition is different. So what they said that means basically this view. What they said that French read this idea, French influence, and they started revolution. Do you really think so? Is it possible? Yes. Do you really think so? Is it possible? Yes, everyone. Do you really think so? Is it possible that just reading the philosophy, people started revolution? Yes, I want answer from you. One more expression. One more expression is if there were no Rousseau, there were no French Revolution. Good. Samir, Ronald, you get it. ऐसे कोई एक किताब पढ़ने से लोग क्रांति नहीं ला सकते. By reading just one book and you are going to start a revolution, it's not the case. So this is another expression. If there were no Rousseau, there were no French Revolution. Don't you think so? It's a exaggeration. It's just like saying we already discussed. So this is exaggeration. Over enthusiastically, you're saying that. When you're saying that their role was most important, that means you're undermining socio-politico-economic situation. This is the immediate factor. You are undermining this that leads to French Revolution. Clear? So role of French, if such type of question is there, like if there were no Rousseau, there were no revolution, or French drank the poison of philosophy. So whenever you're going to write the answer, your answer should be balanced. Means let's take example of this question only. If this is the question, if they ask you, then what you're going to write? First part, you're going to mention role of philosopher. This is first part. Part 2. What you're going to mention here? First part is the role of philosopher. Then here you have to mention the limitation of their role or analysis of their role. In the second part, analysis of the role means what you're going to mention here, that yes, what they did, they convinced the masses that you are exploited through debate, discussion, writings. Yes, they presented the what we can say suffering of the masses in the form of their writing. Clear? You're going to mention this thing, their role. Then part 3. Part 3, you're going to mention other factors like socio-economic, political factors were more important, or rather we can say the most important. Okay. Northeastern side, it is not visible. Okay. So, so the first part is basically role of philosopher. Here I am going to mention. First part you are going to role of philosopher. This is the first part you are going to write here. Second part you are going to analyze their role. Means role of philosopher, analyzing their role. Third part, other factors, that is socio-economic, political factors, more important. And the part 4, you have to write conclusion. In the part 4, you have to write conclusion. So conclusion, what you are going to write? What do you think? Conclusion is basically sum up of whatever you have written. Most of the students are having the same problem, what to write in the conclusion. Use your common sense, it is a summary of what you have written. Means in the conclusion you are going to mention that is socio-politico-economic factors were most important and ideas or philosopher ignited it, added fuel in that and provided guidance. Clear? Get it? See, it's so simple. Don't you think so? It's very simple. And you are thinking a lot what to write. Writing is a very simple thing if your ideas are clear. Okay? Any confusion? Any doubt? Yes, Vasudha, what no, what yes? Any confusion? I ask you any confusion? You say no. Or whether I said got it? No. What exactly is the case? What no? What no? What no? I'm asking what exactly you have written. You replied, no, sir, but I don't know. For which sentence you said no, and for which sentence you said yes. Any doubt? If you don't have doubt, then please let me know. If you don't have, okay, we can move ahead. Okay. I think none of you are having any doubt. Next thing, other point of view, and that is say that role is limited. So this limited role is explained through the statement that considering philosopher as the cause of revolution is like putting the cart before the horses. Considering philosophers as the cause of revolution is like putting the cart before the horses. A very common sense, that is horse is followed by cart. This is the first step, this is second step, or we can mention horse cart. Have you ever heard about cart horse? Not at all, no. So they said the same thing in ornamental language, that if you consider role of philosopher is important than socio-economic political factor for French Revolution, is like putting cart in front of horse. Putting cart in front of horse. That means they said that their role was limited. So whatever I explained till now, you have to just write it. जो भी अभी तक मैंने आपको बताया, you have to just write it down. And it is just a reverse of it, whatever you have written. So here, what we have to write. Let's consider the part first. Part 1. What you are going to write here? If the answer of this question you have to write, what you are going to write? You are going to write first factors responsible, that is socio-economic and political factors responsible for French Revolution. That is your part first. Part 2. Part 2. What role played by philosopher? So what do you think, what role they played? They created awareness among the masses, among people related to socio-economic political condition. Part 3. What you're going to write? Part 3. What you are going to write? Yes, please tell me. I asked this question to you. What you are going to write in the part 3? As since yesterday there is no volume like this, I'm asking in the same volume. Nation wants to know what will be the third part. अरे पूछता है भारत. Tell me, third part. Yes, everyone, please. Yes, everyone, please let me know. I'm waiting for your answers. Because in the examination hall, you have to write answer. So just try to think. Yes, Mrinal, what you said, how philosophy and other factors related, and how other factors are more important than philosophy. Okay. Yes. What about others? Hmm. If suppose if you are going to write the mains examination, this question is valid for all. It is not the case that one person is going to answer, another person is going to watch that person. Please. Are you there? See, nobody is giving answer. Philosopher include, yes, Samir, what you said. Philosopher are included like the drop in the ocean. It's too much exaggeration. Drop is little bit. Their role is important but limited, not that much. But it is also exaggeration drop. See, it's very simple. Just think on normal lines. Part 3. Part 3, what you're going to write, it is basically the part of conclusion. In that, you're going to mention socio-politico-economic problems. Socio-economic political problems were at peak. Were at peak. And there were huge discontent. Discontent. There were huge discontent among the masses, and philosopher philosopher gave direction. Clear? So this is just one thing. I just want to mention what you have to write. Got it? Everyone? Yes, everyone? Got it? What you have to, what you have supposed to write there. Yes, I hope you understand very well what you have to write. Now, now we are coming back to a point, that is, as we mentioned the dilemma that privileged group privileged group, as we are mentioning, the privileged group doesn't want to end their privileges. And what about them? Discontent. Why? Because even in the situation of crisis, they do not want to lose their privileges. Clear? The first and second state were unhappy. Unhappy. Why? Because they asked to pay, and so that's why there was huge discontent. And discontent among the third, that they said that in the time of crisis, still these people are not paying. So the dilemma with this group was the same. If they are going to pay taxes, they are going to lose their privileges. If they refuse to pay tax, death. So this group use an idea, and that is known as, in Indian context, it is known as jugaad. That is known as jugaad. So in the next lecture, we are going to discuss what exactly this is summoning of the state chamber in the next lecture. Yes, everyone. Any question? Any query? Any question? Any question? Any query? Yes, anyone? If it is not there, just okay. I hope you don't have any question, any query. Then thank you for your valuable time. Thank you for your valuable time. Tomorrow we are going to meet at the same lecture at the same time. Yes. Okay. Okay. Bye.